Okay, so the next episode of Star Trek The Next Generation is called Too Short a Season. Now, there's like some kind of a hostage situation or like civil unrest going down on some kind of planet, and the only one who can save the day is a super duper elderly admiral and his wife. So the super duper elderly admiral gets picked up by Picard and the gang, and he beams on board, and he is in a gigantic wheelchair. Like, this wheelchair is super enormous, and he's like rolling around, but not really rolling because I think it floats slightly off the ground, hovers or something. They tried to make it look very futuristic by making it match the upholstery on the bridge. But it just looks really large, and I don't think that this is very practical to have such a big wheelchair. Like, it's slightly bigger than, like, a normal big wheelchair. Anyway, so he's riding around, and Dr. Crusher on the down low to Picard says he's got, like, some kind of disease that makes him not be able to walk, and, you know, it's very debilitating, and I don't even know if he should be doing this. And Picard's like, well, we have no choice because he is the man. So they're like on the way to the planet, I think, because it takes a while to get there. And they call on the telephone, like the view screen, and they're like, hey, I'm here. I'm super old, but I'm going to help you out. And the guy's like, great. And he is, the super old guy is like, you know what? I feel so great. I'm going to not use my wheelchair anymore. And he opens up the door on his giant wheelchair, stands up, and like walks down the bridge. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's a miracle. And Dr. Crusher, privately to the Picard, is like, he's got that super old man condition, and he should never be able to walk again. This is impossible. And Captain Picard's like, well, we all saw it, but, you know, I'm going to have a chat with him a little bit later on. And so he goes to visit Old Man in his quarters with his wife. And Old Man is looking slightly less old. And he looks like maybe he's in his 50s or 60s instead of being like 100 or something. And he's no longer using the giant wheelchair because that thing wouldn't fit in that quarters anyway. And he's like, oh, I took some magic medicine and it's making me younger and younger. And he's like feeling very sick from the medicine. He's like, oh, so sick. And the wife's like, I had no idea because, you know, he didn't tell me anything. And he's like, I wanted it to be a surprise because I went to a magic snake oil salesman and he sold me 2 doses, enough for me, enough for you. We were going to be young. It was going to be great. And then Picard's like, yeah, but then you had this like super important hostage situation to go to. So I bet you took the whole dose instead of like slowly taking it. He's like, oh yeah? And I also took my wife's dose. And the wife, whose name is Annie, is like, that's kind of shitty. So he like was like, so sad. But he's feeling very sick anyway because of all of the medicine. Like, it's changing his DNA, and it's just couldn't have taken so much young medicine to make him young super fast. But anyway, by the time they get to the planet, super old guy has become like a 20 to 30-year-old guy. He looks perfect. There's not even a little bit of old age makeup on him. To the point where the guy is like, dude, you are not the super old guy. We ordered a super old guy. We ordered the super old guy and we're getting the super young guy. I don't think you're him. And he's like, inside joke, inside joke, inside joke. Don't you remember? I'm so totally him. He's like, oh, I'm convinced. And it turns out that this guy who they've been talking to, is actually behind the whole thing. Because back in the olden days, the super old guy, who was then a super young guy, he decided to supply weapons to him so he could help in the conflict, which was against the rules. And he said to Picard, no problem, because I didn't just supply weapons to the one side, I also supplied weapons to the other side, so even Steven. And I think I saw this episode when I was about 8 the first time, and even then I thought that sounded like a bad idea. I'm no expert, but it turns out this, his old friend also thought it was a bad idea because he set this whole thing up to trap him and kill him or something. Or take revenge. Somehow this involved revenge. Not even sure what his plan is. It's not that important. Because by the time he's a young guy and he's down on the planet, he's like so sick. And he's like, oh, I'm about to die from being so sick from my medicine. Side effects. And and the bad guy is like, well, this is better than my revenge. I'll just watch you die right now. Awesome. So he is dying, and he falls down, and his wife is like, oh, sweetie, you're dying. And he's like, Annie with the golden hair. And she's like, I got gray hair now. And he's like, oh, I only see gold hair. So pretty. Dies. I had a lot of questions about this because I was wondering, because he obviously overdosed on his young medicine. If he had taken the recommended dosage and spread it over a period of time, would he be immortal, and could this solve old aging forever? But we don't know because this was never mentioned again, and the episode surely thinks that it's that trying to be young when you're old is a bad thing, and we should just forget about it and die. And that is the end of Too Short a Season. Bye.